They never say your name out loud. Not here, not in this building. Names are liabilities. You are a number, a file, a function. The man across the desk doesn't look up when you walk in. He slides a single sheet of paper toward you. You read it once, you slide it back. He burns it. You will never see that paper again. You will carry what was written on it for the rest of your life. Welcome to the KGB. The Committee for State Security was the most powerful intelligence organization in human history. At its peak, it employed 700,000 officers and ran informant networks that touched 1 in every 6 Soviet citizens. It had files on everyone: generals, politicians, writers, priests, the General Secretary of the Communist Party himself, especially him. This is what it was actually like to live inside it. Every rank. From the first day you walked through that side door at Lubyanka, because nobody uses the front entrance, to the day you commanded the entire organization, if you lasted that long. Most didn't. Level 1. Stazer, the trainee. You are 22 years old and you have been selected. Out of 10,000 applicants, 400 were called for initial testing. You are one of 40 who passed. You still don't know exactly what you passed. The tests were strange. Long questions about your parents, your grandparents, whether any of them had ever said anything against the party, whether you had ever heard them say anything, whether you would report it if they had. You answered correctly. You always know how to answer correctly. That is why you are here. The classroom has no windows. The instructors have no names, not ones they share with you. You take notes in a cipher that changes every week. You study Marxist ideology, surveillance methodology, Western culture, and something they call active measures. You don't fully understand active measures yet. You will. Your pay is 80 rubles a month, less than a factory worker. You sleep in a dormitory with 6 other trainees. You don't know their real names either. You are learning how to live inside a secret. The first secret is that you are already being watched, not by the West, by your own side. Every conversation monitored, every friendship assessed, every hesitation noted. How do you move up? You don't fail. Not the ideology tests, not the loyalty reviews, not the surveillance exercises where you follow a man through Moscow for 8 hours without being seen, without stopping to eat, without making a single mistake. One failure and you are returned to civilian life. They don't tell you why. They don't have to. Nobody leaves the KGB and talks about it. Level 2. Operativnik, Junior Operative. Training is over. You have a desk now. A real desk in a real office inside Lubyanka, the most feared building in the Soviet Union. People cross the street to avoid walking past its front entrance. Children know not to look at it for too long. You walk in through the side door every morning, and you take the lift to the 4th floor, and you sit down, and you begin. Your job is domestic surveillance. You are assigned a list of names, citizens under observation. You read their mail, opened carefully, photographed, resealed with a precision that leaves no trace. You listen to their telephone calls through a receiver that scratches and hisses. You file reports, hundreds of pages about people who said nothing interesting. But occasionally, one of them says something. A joke about food shortages, a letter to a cousin in Poland that mentions something it shouldn't, a phone call where someone pauses at exactly the wrong moment. You write it down. You file it. You do not decide what happens next. Someone above you does. You never meet the person whose letter you opened. You are not supposed to wonder about their fate. You don't stop wondering for about 6 months. Then you do. Level 3, Illegal. Deep cover operative. You have been selected for Directorate S. The illegals. You will not be posted abroad under diplomatic cover. You will not have an embassy to run to if something goes wrong. You will have no official status, no acknowledgement from Moscow if you are caught. You will simply be a person who does not work for the KGB, living a life that does not belong to you, in a country that is not yours. For the next 3 years, you become someone else, not gradually, completely. You are a Canadian schoolteacher named David Archer, who grew up outside Toronto. You know his street, his school, his childhood friends, his first job. You know the smell of the changing rooms at the ice rink, where David played hockey at 15. You know this because your instructors found someone who grew up there and debriefed him for 40 hours, and you memorized everything. You are David Archer. David Archer has never been to Moscow. David Archer has never heard of the KGB. Once a month, David Archer walks to a park bench in a western city and sits for exactly 11 minutes. When he leaves, a dead drop contains what he has collected. He never meets his handler face to face. He does not know his handler's name. If you are arrested, Moscow will confirm you are David Archer, a confused Canadian with no connection to the Soviet Union. Moscow will deny you exist. That is the agreement you signed. You signed it without hesitation. You were 26 years old, and you believed completely in what you were doing. You have been living this life for 5 years now. Last week you dreamed in Russian. You woke up in a cold sweat and checked for the 3rd time that morning that you had spoken English in your sleep. You cannot know for certain. There is no one you can ask. But living under a false identity for 5 years, that is not even the most dangerous thing a KGB officer can do. The rank above this one required you to look a man in the eye, understand exactly what he feared most, and use it every single day, for years, and then one day, stop. Level 4, Case Officer, Foreign Intelligence. You run agents now, not informants, agents. Men and women who have been recruited inside Western governments, military establishments, intelligence services. People who are passing secrets. Some do it for ideology. They believe in the Soviet project, or they did once, when they were young and certain. Some do it for money. Some do it because of what you have on them. You handle a British civil servant who has been passing documents for 7 years. He does not do it for ideology. He does it because in Vienna, in 1973, he made a mistake. You were there. Your colleague had a camera. The civil servant has a wife and 2 daughters, and a career he has spent 30 years building. You meet him twice a year, different cities, different covers. You are a Dutch journalist, a Danish academic, a French businessman. The tradecraft is flawless. The relationship is professional and cold. You don't like him, he doesn't like you. He is useful, you are necessary. That is the relationship. 18 months ago, one of your sources was arrested. Special Branch had been watching him for 2 years without your knowledge. You burned the file. You moved the other assets to new contacts. You filed a report to Moscow. You did not ask what happened to the man who was arrested. You already knew. Level 5, Resident. Station Chief. You are now the most senior KGB officer in London. Your cover is Second Secretary at the Soviet Embassy, a posting so transparently KGB that MI5 tracks your movements as a standard operational procedure. That is fine. You are the legal resident. You are supposed to be visible. Your visibility protects the people who are not. Beneath you, and completely invisible to British intelligence, the illegal network operates. Men living as David Archer, women who have been in place for a decade. You coordinate both. You receive intelligence from across the network, synthesize it, and transmit to Moscow via encrypted cable. You receive instructions from the center and distribute them. You are the conductor of an orchestra that cannot be seen or heard. Your greatest asset is also your greatest vulnerability. Everything flows through you. If you are identified and expelled, 3 of your predecessors were, the network is disrupted. If you are turned, if British intelligence gets access to you, the network is destroyed. Every morning you run through a mental checklist. Has my behavior changed in any way that surveillance could note? Have I been tested recently? Someone following me to see if I spotted them? Is there anything on my conscience that could be used against me? There is always something on your conscience. You stopped sleeping more than 4 hours a night in 1978. It is now 1984. Level 6. Department Head, Directorate S. You are back in Moscow. You no longer leave the country. You run the illegal program from Lubyanka. You manage the training of deep cover agents. The identities, the legends, the cover histories that take 5 years to construct before an officer is ever deployed. You oversee assets in 19 countries. None of them know each other. None of them know you. You are a ghost who manages ghosts. Last month, one of your illegals in Washington was arrested by the FBI. They had been watching for 18 months. You read the initial report in a morning briefing. The officer was professional to the end. Said nothing. Revealed nothing. Is currently in a federal facility, facing decades of charges. You sent his wife a letter through a cutout, explaining that her husband had died in an industrial accident while working overseas. She has been receiving a pension ever since. She will never know his real name. His real name is in a file in this building with a red stamp across the cover. The loneliness of this work is something no one warned you about. You have been married twice. Level 7. Deputy Director, Operations. You sit on the KGB's most senior operational committee. You approve missions. You approve recruitments. You approve what the documents call terminations. The word termination covers a range of outcomes: expulsion from a country, arrest, defection management, and occasionally the other kind. You have approved the other kind 4 times. There is no record in your file that connects you to those decisions. There is no record anywhere. That was the arrangement. Your office has a window. You can see the Kremlin from here on clear days. You have briefings with the Central Committee, with the military, with the Foreign Ministry. You understand now, fully, clearly, without any remaining illusions, that the KGB does not control the Soviet Union. The KGB is the nervous system of the Soviet Union. It feels everything. It reports everything. But the decisions, the real decisions about the direction of this country, are made by men whose names even you barely know. Men you have never met. Men who will never be in any file. You have spent 30 years gathering power. You are now close enough to the center to understand that the center is a room you will never enter. That realization arrives quietly on a Wednesday afternoon during a routine briefing. You finish the briefing. You return to your office. You look at the Kremlin through the window. You do not discuss it with anyone. There is no one to discuss it with. Level 8, First Deputy Chairman. You are second in command of the most powerful intelligence organization on Earth. 700,000 officers. Operations in 150 countries. Informant networks touching tens of millions of Soviet citizens. Surveillance files on every significant person in the Union, including the men who, in theory, command you. Especially those men. The chairman is old and unwell. The succession is a question that nobody asks directly, and everyone calculates constantly. You calculate it every day. You are careful. Extremely careful. In this position, visible ambition is as dangerous as open disloyalty. You need to be competent enough to be considered, and restrained enough not to be feared. It is the same razor edge you have been walking for 35 years. You have simply moved higher up. Your name, when it appears in Western intelligence assessments, and it does, you have seen the assessments, is described as formidable. The British say formidable, the Americans say sophisticated. The West Germans say something that translates approximately to the one to watch. You find this information in a file on your own desk, because nothing happens in the Soviet intelligence world that does not pass through this office. Nothing. Level 9 Chairman of the KGB. You are the last rank. There is nothing above this except the General Secretary himself, and even he handles you carefully. You command 700,000 officers. You have surveillance files on every significant person in the Soviet Union, including the General Secretary, including his family, including the men who are supposed to be watching you. This is understood by everyone. It is never spoken. Your name, when spoken in the right rooms, causes a specific kind of silence. Not the silence of respect, the silence of calculation. Every person you meet is quietly running numbers. What does he know about me? What is in my file? What has he already decided? You do the same. You have always done the same. This is the summit. This is what every dead drop, every burned file, every widow's pension, every termination, every night of 4 hours of sleep was building toward. You are here. You command everything. You trust no one. Your predecessor died in office. The one before him was removed, erased, and never mentioned again. There is no retirement. There is no walking away from this chair. You hold the secrets of an entire civilization. A civilization that cannot survive you leaving. You chose this life. Or perhaps, standing here now looking back at the trainee who walked through that side door 40 years ago, perhaps it chose you. The KGB was dissolved on the 3rd of December 1991. Its files were not. Next time, what it was actually like to live as a Soviet sleeper agent inside Britain. For 15 years, without breaking cover once, until the phone rang.